Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga. Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, 13th chapter, text number 11.
Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, chapter number 13, text number?
Sorry, it's chapter 13, text 11. 13, text 11.
Chapter 13, text 11.
Deva Uchu Videha Usitan Kamang Lochaneshu Sharirinam Umishana Nimeshabhyang Lakshito Jatma Sangsitaha Lakshito Yadma Sangsitaha Deva Uchu Videha Ushitam Kamang Lochaneshu Sariranam Umeshana Nimeshabhyam Lakshito Jadma Sangsitaha Deva Uchu Videha Ushitam Kamam Lochaneshu Shariranam Unmishana Nishidyam Lakshito Jadma Sangsitaha. Next. That's a remote for the camera?
No, the person is sitting over there. Hari Prabhu. He's controlling the camera. He's sitting in the class.
That's this recording?
This is audio recording.
Yeah, she usually brings the mic over here. Ask him.
This is the mic, man.
Oh, I see. Okay. Vaishnavis? Translation. The demigods said, "Let Maharaj Nimi live without a material body." Let him live in a spiritual body as a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And according to his desire, let him be manifest or unmanifest to common, materially embodied people. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The demigods wanted Maharaj Nimi to come to life. You see, he had left his body. If we go back to the prior text to get some context here. Going back to 9th verse from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. My Lord, if you want me to take birth and accept material body again, kindly do me this favor. Allow me to take birth in the home of your servant, your devotee. I do not mind being born there, even as an insignificant creature like an insect. Let's go back and see what a little bit of history here, what's leading up to the current verse. Actually, going back to the first verse of the chapter, because understanding the context here is very important. Beginning with the first verse. Sukadeva Goswami said, after beginning sacrifices, Maharaj Nimi, the son of Ikshvaku, see, this is how we are in the subject, how we're on the subject of Nimi, because we're still discussing the dynasty of the sun god. So it appears that Maharaj Nimi is apparently the grandson of Surya. Because Ikshvaku is the son of the sun god. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions this. He says, I spoke this Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, and sun god spoke to his son Ikshvaku. It's the same Ikshvaku. So here we see the dynasty connection of Mahabhagavats. They're not mundane personalities. So Maharaj Nimi requests the great sage Vasishtha to take the post of chief priest at a yajna. Vasishtha replied, my dear Maharaj Nimi, I have already accepted the same post and a sacrifice begun by Lord Indra. Second verse. Vasishtha said, I shall return here after finishing the yajna for Indra. Kindly wait for me until then. second verse. Maharaj Nimi remained silent, and Vasishtha began to perform the sacrifice for Lord Indra. Anybody want to read any mundane stories, or is this a good enough story for? If you want to read stories, don't read some rubbish, cheap, garbage novel. Read Srimad Bhagavatam. It was making a point like this when I was in Calcutta at a Bhakti Viksha group, 800 Bhakti Viksha group members. And spontaneously, I got some inspiration to sell sets of Bhagavatams in a city and congregation where they don't buy books. So I said, Rai, read cheap, junky novels. Why not read Srimad Bhagavatam? Is full of very fascinating stories. Do you find this story interesting? Good, good. Then you can make it in Krishna consciousness. So Vasishtha said, wait for a while, and Maharaj Nimi remained silent. He didn't say yes, Guru Maharaj. He didn't say that. See, this is the fact that he remained silent is quite significant. Vasishtha began to perform the sacrifice for Lord Indra. Maharaj, going on to the third verse, Maharaj Nimi, being a self-realized soul, mark this please, he was not a Kanistadikari, Madhyamadikari, but he is Mahabhagavat. This is very important. Mahabhagavats don't make mistakes. Anybody know why they don't make mistakes? What's your guess, Prabhu? No clue? Yes, Prabhu. Ramanjan, yes? Yes, they're directed by Krishna. Hariva. Each and every word coming from the mouth of a Mahabhagavat is dictated by Krishna. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, I did not write these books, Krishna wrote them. That's why, understand, you say, well, I don't know your Prabhupada. Well, listen. By hearing, by Shravanam, you will come to understand Prabhupada, and you can develop your love and attachment in your heart when you understand, oh my God, that's amazing. Krishna wrote the books, and Prabhupada was, in one sense, the scribe, just like Ganesh. Point is that Maharaj Nimi did not make a mistake. So Shukadeva Goswami continues, this is the third verse. Maharaj Nimi, being a self-realized soul, considered this his life as flickering, flickering, chapala sukha, flickering, like the fans are blowing here, you put up a ghee lamp on the fan, out it goes. Therefore, instead of waiting a long time for Vashishta, he began performing the sacrifice with other priests. So Vashishta had told him to wait, but he's actually disobeying. So this is heavy duty, He's disobeying Guru, because actually in those days, every Brahmana was seen as Guru, not just Diksha. See, we place, all in all importance on Diksha, but in the Vedic culture, every Brahmana was seen as Guru. This is a very serious situation because Maharaj Nimi is a disciple of Vashishta. But he didn't want to wait, so he's actually disobeying his Guru Maharaj. This is heavy duty. This is one of those don't try this at home stories. So this is just like the other example is of disobeying Guru for the right reason is, yes, Bali Maharaj, thank you very much. That's another don't try this at home story. Of course, the difference is that Vashishta is much more spiritually advanced than the Guru of Bali Maharaj. Devasa is technically not even counted as a devotee of the Lord. He knows all about Lord Vishnu, but Bhakti is lacking. He knows all about Lord Vishnu, but Bhakti is lacking. But here we see that you can't say the thing about Vashishta is a great soul. He's not ordinary, not an ordinary yogi, not an ordinary mystic. So the fourth verse continues. After completing the sacrificial performance for King Indra, the spiritual master Vashishta returned and found that his disciple Maharaj Nimi had disobeyed his instructions. Thus Vashishta cursed him, saying, "May the material body of Nimi, who considers himself learned, immediately fall." Now the fifth verse gets even heavier. Anybody remember the fifth verse? Yes, Pramanjan? Yes, Haribol. Maharaj Nimi is Mahabhagavats, self-realized soul. Then this is also highly unusual. He turns around and curses his guru. oh my, this is terrible. I mean, not terrible, but it's amazing. It's something in Vedic culture, it's unthinkable.
तो महाराज देवी जो है स्वरूप सिद्ध है वो महाभागवत है। अब देखेंगे यहाँ पे कि महाराज देवी ने वशिष्ठ मुनि को कर्स किया, शाप दिया, और ये साधारण बात नहीं है वैदिक कल्चर के अंदर से।
So when Vashishta cursed Maharaja Nimi, he said, may the material body of Nimi, who considered himself learned, immediately fall. That means die. Die now.
तो महाराज देवी ने उन्हें कर्स दिया कि आपका भी ये जो भौतिक शरीर है वो नष्ट हो जाए। आपका भी शरीर त्याग कर देना। आप अपना शरीर छोड़ दें।
The 5th verse. For unnecessarily cursing him when he had committed no offense, Maharaj Nimi counter-cursed his spiritual master.
पांचवा श्लोक। महाराज देवी द्वारा किसी प्रकार का अपराध न किए जाने पर व्यर्थ ही गुरु द्वारा शापित होने पर उन्होंने भी बदले में श्राप दिया।
For the sake of getting, listen to this, now he's insulting his guru, but it's with a true statement. Truth, using truth to insult his guru, which is also like, don't try this.
तो वो सच बोल रहे हैं और सच बोलने से उनके गुरु की वो बेइज्जती कर रहे हैं, उनकी इंसल्ट कर रहे हैं, तो ये भी हमने करते प्रयास मत कीजिए ऐसा करने का।
For the sake of getting contributions from the King of Heaven, Maharaj Nimi said, you have lost your religious intelligence. Therefore, I pronounce this curse, your body will also fall.
महाराज देवी ने कहा, स्वर्ग के राजा इंद्र से भेंट पाने के नियम में आपने अपनी धार्मिक बुद्धि खो दी है। अतः मेरा श्राप है कि आपका भी शरीर पाप हो जाए।
So, two very great souls cursing each other. This is a disaster.
तो दो महान जीवात्माएं एक दूसरे को श्राप दे रहे हैं, तो ये बहुत बड़ा डिजास्टर है।
So in the purport here, Prabhupada points out that when one is infected by contaminated activities, his power, material or spiritual, reduces. So the point is that Vashishta was off. That's the point.
प्रभुपाद यहाँ पे तात्पर्य में लिखते हैं, जब कोई व्यक्ति दूषित कर्मों के संपर्क में आता है, तो उसकी शक्ति चाहे भौतिक हो या आध्यात्मिक घट जाती है।
So Prabhupada points out that although Vashishta was a spiritual master of Maharaj Nimi, because of his greed, he became fallen.
प्रभुपाद आगे लिखते हैं, यद्यपि वशिष्ठ महाराज निमि के गुरु थे, किंतु लोभ के कारण उनका पतन हुआ।
So from this purport we can see that Maharaj Nimi was speaking the truth. It was not just empty, or it was not aparad. This is the point.
हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं कि महाराज निमि जो है सच बोल रहे हैं। ऐसा नहीं है कि वो अपराध कर रहे हैं, लेकिन सच बोल के वो चीजों को बता रहे हैं।
Because he said, for the sake of getting contributions for King of Heaven, you've lost your religious intelligence. In other words, you should have seen that my jagna was more important than King Indra's jagna. This is basically what Maharaj Nimi was saying.
महाराज भी कहते हैं, स्वर्ग के राजा इंद्र से भेंट प्राप्त करने के नियम में आपने अपनी धार्मिक बुद्धि खो दी है। उन्हें सोचना चाहिए था, उनके लिए ये जो महाराज निमि का यज्ञ है, ये ज्यादा जरूरी था महाराज इंद्र के यज्ञ से।
We see this temptation for, like Hiranyakasipu, gold and soft bed.
तो हम देखते हैं ऐसी प्रवृत्ति थी हिरण्यकशिपु के लिए, सोने के प्रति और सॉफ्ट बेड के प्रति।
So, if they're not after soft gold, but in this case, we see that Vashishta was after money. That's why Prahlad Maharaj says, money is the honey.
तो हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं कि जो वशिष्ठ मुनि थे, वो पैसों के पीछे थे, और जैसे कि प्रहलाद महाराज कहते हैं, money is honey.
Yes. So even great personalities like Vashishta fall prey to the temptation of bucks.
यहाँ तक कि बड़े मुनि जैसे वशिष्ठ मुनि हैं, वो भी पैसों के लालच में, पैसे के लोभ में पड़ जाते हैं, फंस जाते हैं।
But not pieces of paper, worthless pieces of paper.
लेकिन उनके जो पैसे हैं, वो ऐसे कागज के टुकड़े नहीं हैं।
diamonds, gold, rubies, sapphires, all precious gems by our 2018 standard worth millions of crores. That's what Vashishta was after. Try to understand. That's why Maharaj Nimi dared to curse him, because he was after millions of crores of precious gems, instead of seeing the importance of Maharaj Nimi's Vishnu sacrifice. So the 6th verse, more magic. Are you ready? So after cursing Vashishta, Maharaj Nimi, who was expert in the science of spiritual knowledge, gave up his body. Vashishta, the great grandfather, gave up his body also. But through the semen discharged by Mitra and Varuna, when they saw Urvasi, he was born again. Prabhupada explains that while Mitra and Varuna chanced to meet Urvasi, the most beautiful prostitute of the heavenly kingdom, and they became lusty, and because they were great saints, they tried to control their lust, but they could not do so, and thus they discharged semen. This semen was kept carefully at a water pot, and Vashishta was born from it. Do they know this modern science? Do they know how to do this? What do you think, Prabhu? No? But this is the greatest civilization in the history of the planet. What do you mean they don't know how to do it? You mean to say this is a science superior to modern science? No, how could it be? This is the greatest civilization ever in the history of the planet. Not. I mean, they would love to know how to do these things. You know, let's face it, modern artificial insemination can't compare with this. This is a superior science. So the 7th verse says, during the performance of the Jagna, the body relinquished by Maharaj Nimi was preserved in a fragrant substances, and at the end of the Satra Yuga, the great saints and brahmanas made the following request to all the demigods assembled there. It's Satra Jagna, it's not Satra Yuga, Satra Jagna. So the demigods are upset about this great personality. Vashishta now has left his body, and now Maharaj Nimi has left his body. Also the two great souls. So then the demigods are very concerned about it.
जीवात्माएं महाराज नंदी और वशिष्ठ मुनि दोनों ने अपना शरीर त्याग दिया। तो जो ऋषिगण थे उन्होंने देवताओं से प्रार्थना की।
So they can, and the Devas say, if you're satisfied in the 8th verse, if you're satisfied with this sacrifice, and if you're actually able to do so, kindly bring Maharaja Nimi back to life.
तो उन्होंने कहा, यदि आप इस यज्ञ से संतुष्ट हैं और यदि वास्तव में आप ऐसा करने में समर्थ हैं, तो कृपया इस संसार में महाराज नंदी को फिर से जीवित कर दें।
In this body, they say.
इसी शरीर में।
This is a request by the sages to the
मुनियों की प्रार्थना है।
They're requesting this miracle from the demigods.
ये जो मुनिगण हैं वो देवताओं से प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं।
The demigods said yes to the request by the sages, but Maharaja Nimi said, in other words, he didn't actually die because the soul's eternal. And he's a mystic on top of that.
तो देवताओं ने उत्तर में हाँ बोला, लेकिन महाराज नंदी ने कहा नहीं, मुझे पुनः भौतिक शरीर नहीं चाहिए।
Maharaja Nimi responded to this drama going on by saying, please do not imprison me again in a material body. In other words, being self-realized, he understood what this body is, nothing but a prison house.
महाराज नंदी ने इस ड्रामा में एक अलग रोल निभाया और बोला कि कृपया मुझे दोबारा भौतिक शरीर नहीं दीजिए। जो सेल्फ-रिलाइज होते हैं, जो स्वरूप सिद्ध होते हैं, वो नहीं चाहते कि उन्हें दोबारा इस शरीर के अंदर बांधा जाए।
So Maharaj Nimi's body had been preserved in various balms, B-A-L-M-S. Balms means herbs and ointments and so forth, oil. So they are so powerful in such deeds as bringing life back to a dead body. This science is not known today, really it isn't. Can anybody say, did they teach you in the university? Scientists, you're all scientists. Did they teach you how to bring a dead body back to life in the university? Yes, this science is not known. They'd love to know this science. I mean, Walt Disney, you know, the famous Walt Disney movie producer. Walt Disney. He believed in a so-called science called cryonics. Cryonics. You don't know who Walt Disney is? Half your life is gone. Everybody know who Walt Disney is? A movie producer in the 1960s and 70s.
Walt Disney था, उसने भी अपने शरीर को ऐसे ही रखवाया था कि उसके शरीर को प्रिजर्व करके रखा जाए ताकि उसे बाद में जीवित करा जाए। अगर हो सकता है बाद में कभी जीवित करना ऐसा पॉसिबल संभव हो ताकि वैज्ञानिक उसको बाद में जीवित कर सके।
But of course he had a material body, so of course he died of some disease naturally.
क्योंकि उनका जो शरीर था वो भौतिक शरीर था, तो उनको बीमारी व्याधि के कारण उन्होंने शरीर बाधित जाता।
All his money and fame couldn't save him. So he gave the order and set up before he died in his will, said that his body should be frozen in extremely expensive machinery, giant tanks and all that, that removed the blood from his body and kept some kind of fluid going in his body instead of blood or whatever, that something similar to that cryonics is called, in an attempt to keep the body from actually dying. Disney's family was forced to spend, because of his will, Disney's family was forced to spend tens of millions or more US dollars to keep all this machinery going, to keep his body frozen, on his hope that science would be better in the future and they could bring his body back to life. This is true. This cryonics racket started when once they successfully froze a dog. They successfully froze a live dog. And then managed to bring him back to life again. His family decided they had enough of wasting money on this. They did. They decided they had enough of this nonsense. Wasting the family dynasty's money, you know, on some myth. So they had the bucks, so they hired some scientists and some doctors to give sworn testimony that this cryonics was bogus, not real science. They had the bucks, easy for them to, you know, pay some scientists and some doctors to say that there was no truth in it, therefore they could unplug him. That was the whole point, to unplug his frozen body so they wouldn't have to pay for this. It was costing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to keep his body frozen in a special machinery. So Maharaj Prabhupada explains, Maharaj Nimi did not want to accept the material body again, which would be a cause of bondage, because he was a devotee. He wanted a body which he could render devotional service to the Lord uninterrupted. So in verse 10 he says, I do not wish to accept the material body, for such a body is the source of all distress, lamentation, and fear. Everywhere in the universe, just as it is for a fish in the water, which lives always in anxiety because of fear of death. Here Shukadeva Goswami is giving us some interesting insight into the mentality of a fish. We don't know these things, but we hear from the great soul Shukadeva Goswami that fish live in fear of being swallowed by some bigger fish. This is the whole point. Even in the pastime of Matsya Avatar, he was just a little fishy. Maybe he was, let's say, for the sake of discussion, let's say he was only about an inch long or so, 4 centimeters long. The king was just scooping up some sacred water from the sacred river for his puja. So By accident, that's a joke. By accident, actually the real explanation is by the will of the Lord. He scooped up this little, very small fish in his lota. He was about to pour the fish back into the river. The little fish said, "You can't put me back in the water. I'm a little fish and some big fish will eat me. It's very dangerous, so don't put me back in the water." That's But the king was covered by Yoga Maya, so it didn't strike him as peculiar yet that it was a talking fish. It didn't, you know, because he was covered by Yoga Maya, he didn't understand yet it was a talking fish. So, again, the 11th verse, the demigods, being requested by sages, said, "Let Maharaj Nimi live without a material body." Without a material body. Listen carefully. Let him live in a spiritual body as a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And according to his desire, let him be manifest or unmanifest to common materially embodied people. So Srila Prabhupada explains, the demigods wanted Maharaj Nimi to come to life, but Maharaj Nimi did not want to accept another material body. Under the circumstances, the demigods, having been requested by the saintly persons, gave him the benediction that he would be able to stay in his spiritual body. Prabhupada comments that some foolish people think that spiritual body means ghost body. This is nonsense. So the demigods gave King Nimi the benediction that he would be able to stay in a purely spiritual body, free from all gross and subtle material contamination. There are multiple examples of great devotees ascending to the spiritual world in the same body. In other words, having a so-called material body in the material world, but being able to ascend to the spiritual body and into the spiritual sky in the same body. There's several explanations are given in the Shastra. Prabhupada continues. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be seen or unseen according to his own transcendental desire. Similarly, a devotee, being Jivan Mukta, could be seen or not as he chooses. Now this is really important. Try to catch the secret meaning of Prabhupada's statement. Rajavidya Rajaguya, try to catch it.
बहुत ही ज़्यादा बुरी बात है। इसको बिल्कुल समझने का प्रयास कीजिए, इसको पकड़ने का प्रयास कीजिए कि क्या प्रभुपाद यहाँ पे कहना चाह रहे हैं।
At the present time, we cannot see Srila Prabhupada's so-called material body.
हम अभी के समय में श्रील प्रभुपाद का शरीर को नहीं देख पाते।
But he is Jivan Mukta, means seen or not seen according to his desire. So he left behind, try to see the parallel here of this pastime. He left behind his so-called material body, but he is still alive and well in Goloka Vrindavan, doing just fine. And so we can't see his spiritual body. We're not fit. One day we will see his spiritual body.
हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं कि इसको समझने का प्रयास करने से इस प्रश्न में है वैसे ही प्रभुपाद की लीला में भी कि प्रभुपाद ने भौतिक शरीर को छोड़ दिया, लेकिन अपने आध्यात्मिक शरीर में अभी भी लोग वृंदावन में सेवा कर रहे हैं। और जब हम हमारे जो ऐसी क्वालिफिकेशन हमारी योग्यता होगी कि हम उनको देख पाएंगे कभी, जब हमारे अंदर ऐसी योग्यता आएगी तो कभी हम आध्यात्मिक जगत जाके श्री प्रभुपाद को भी देख पाएंगे।
You see the connection? The Prabhupada says that such Jivan Mukta can be seen or not seen as it chooses. Do you see the connection between these two pastimes here? Pastimes of Prabhupada leaving his material body and the pastimes of Maharaja Nimi described here? I agree with that. Do you see the connection? No? Blank. The connection between the pastime of Maharaja leaving his body and being awarded a spiritual body by the mercy of the Devas. Of course, Prabhupada is, present tense, Nityasiddha. He was not awarded a spiritual body by the mercy of the demigods. He simply reclaimed his original Swarup, or eternal spiritual form. He didn't have to take any benediction from the demigods for that. But in this case, Maharaja Nimi was awarded a spiritual body by the mercy of the Devas. So again, Prabhupada says, a devotee being Jivan Mukta can be seen or not seen as he chooses. Do you see the similarity here? Yes, no? Yes. Then Prabhupada continues, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakash Savasya Yogamaya Svavita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is not manifest to everyone and anyone. To the common man, he is unseen. Now Prabhupada quotes a verse that he quoted hundreds of times in his lectures, hundreds of times. Ataha Shri Krishna Namari na bhaved grayam indvaryaye. Krishna and his name, fame, qualities, and paraphernalia cannot be materially understood. Unless one is advanced in spiritual life, Sevanmukhi hi jivado, one cannot see Krishna.
जब तक कोई आध्यात्मिक जीवन में आगे बढ़ा हुआ ना हो, सेवा मुख्य ही विवाद, तब तक वह कृष्ण को देख नहीं सकता।
So by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have deities all over the world, so we can see Krishna.
श्री प्रभुपाद की कृपा से हमारे पास अर्श विग्रह है देश के हर कोने में, हम भगवान कृष्ण को देख पाते हैं।
The deity is Krishna himself personally, not even expansion. Krishna is personally present in the deity.
तो जो अर्श विग्रह है, वो स्वयं भगवान श्री कृष्ण है। ऐसा नहीं है कि भगवान कृष्ण के अवतार हैं, वो स्वयं भगवान श्री कृष्ण है।
Or Sita Ram also, personally present.
स्वयं खुद हैं, अवतार नहीं हैं।
Because they're not material, and the form of, carved in marble is not mundane, or made in wood like Jagannath, Baladeva, and Subhadra.
तो ये जो चाहे वो पत्थर के बने हो, चाहे वो लकड़ी के बने हो, जैसे कि जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माँ, ये भौतिक नहीं है।
So Prabhupada says to the common man, he, meaning Krishna, is unseen.
तो प्रभुपाद लिखते हैं कि साधारण व्यक्तियों के लिए वो दिखते नहीं हैं, अदृश्य रहते हैं।
Unless one is advanced in spiritual life, sevanmukhi hi jivado, one cannot see Krishna.
जब तक कोई आध्यात्मिक जीवन में आगे बढ़ा हुआ ना हो, तब तक वह श्री कृष्ण को देख नहीं सकता।
Therefore, the ability to see Krishna depends on Krishna's mercy.
अतः कृष्ण को देखने की शक्ति उन्हीं की कृपा पर निर्भर रहती है।
So, similarly, the neophyte devotee cannot see that the deities are alive.
तो उसी प्रकार ये जो कनिष्ठ अधिकारी होते हैं, वे देख नहीं पाते कि जो अर्श विग्रह है वो जीवित है वास्तव में।
The neophyte cannot see that deities even change their expressions.
यहाँ तक कि वो ये भी नहीं देख पाते कि जो भगवान है अर्श विग्रह के फॉर्म में अपना जो एक्सप्रेशंस है वो चेंज करते हैं, बदलते हैं।
Decades ago, I was astonished when way back when the famous or infamous ISKCON disciple or follower of Srila Prabhupada, Nanda Swami,
तो 10 या उससे कई साल पहले जो प्रभुपाद के डिसाइपल हैं कीर्तन स्वामी,
way back when he was in good standing, long before Prabhupada's departure.
तो प्रभुपाद के जाने से पहले जब वो सही उनका आचरण था,
I was looking through his photo album of Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra.
तो मैं उनकी जो फोटो एल्बम है उनको देख रहा था, जब उनकी फोटो श्री राधा वृंदावन चंद्र की।
Looking at the photos, I could see the photographic evidence that their expressions were changing from day to day. No, it's true. I looked at pictures, and sometimes it didn't even hardly look like the same deity. The expressions change. Devotees, that is to say, deities are persons.
तो फोटो को देख के मेरे सामने साक्षात प्रत्यक्ष था कि अलग-अलग फोटो में जो भगवान के अर्श विग्रह में जो एक्सप्रेशन थे, जो बेसिक एक्सप्रेशन थे, वो अलग-अलग थे। मैं साफ देख पा रहा था। तो इन वक्त तो ऐसा लगता है सेम डीटीज ही नहीं है, इतने उसके एक्सप्रेशन चेंज हो गए।
So I said at that time to Maharaja, I said, it seems to me that this book is photographic evidence that the deities are changing their expressions and mood from day to day.
तो मैंने महाराज को कहा कि ऐसा लगता है इस बुक को देख के कि ये साक्षात उदाहरण है, साक्षात प्रत्यक्ष है कि हम इसे देख सकते हैं कि कैसे जो डीटीज हैं, जो अर्श विग्रह हैं, वो अपने फेस के एक्सप्रेशन चेंज करते हैं।
He said, yes, it's true.
और महाराज ने कहा हाँ, सही बात है।
So you cannot understand the deity simply by looking with your fleshy eyeball at the form. You cannot understand in that way. You can only understand.
तो आप अर्श विग्रह को नहीं समझ सकते अपने इस चमड़े की आंखों से देखकर, आप नहीं समझ सकते।
Therefore, Prabhupada says, unless one is advanced in spiritual life, sevanmukhi hi jivado, one cannot see Krishna.
तो इससे प्रभुपाद लिखते हैं कि जब तक आप आध्यात्मिक जीवन में आगे बढ़े हुए ना हो, सेवक के ही जीवन हो, तब तक आप श्री कृष्ण को।
Therefore, the ability to see Krishna depends on Krishna's mercy.
अतः कृष्ण को देखने की शक्ति उन्हीं की कृपा पर निर्भर करती है।
The same privilege of being seen or unseen according to one's own desire was given to Maharaj Nimi.
अपनी इच्छा अनुसार देखे जाने या ना देखे जाने का यही
Thus he lived in his original spiritual body as an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
इस प्रकार वे अपने मूल आध्यात्मिक शरीर से भगवान के पार्षद के रूप में बने रहे।
Any questions, comments?
इसके अंदर कोई प्रश्न या टिप्पणी?
Yes. So even a Muslim could see the change of face on the deity. Well, that's pretty rare, pretty rare. If it's a true statement, then he must have had some bhakti in his heart. Who had a question here? Yes? Loudly, please.
Well, as you said, in Vedic times, Brahmana was, each and every Brahmana was considered as a guru. And people used to take instructions from them.
Yes, that was the culture. Brahmana was considered guru. That's the culture.
But as we know that each person has different ways of giving knowledge. So if a single person will take instructions from different gurus, then he will not be confused. He will be confused.
You have to break it up so bad. Yes?
What is saying is that in the earlier times, I was saying that Brahmanas, that the person is taking instruction from the various Brahmanas, because all of them as their gurus. So he will take the instruction from many people and he will be confused on the subject matter. But the subject matter, how to perform it, he will be confused because it's taking instruction from various persons.
So if you have a Diksha Guru and you want to accept serious instruction from a Siksha Guru, then you have to take instruction from the Diksha Guru if you want a, you could say, formal relationship with a Siksha Guru who may be a counselor or something like that. Generally, temple authorities set up a counseling system in good temples. Unfortunately, not all temples have this. No, but translate. You're stating possible confusion. Therefore, Prabhupada said, if there's even one word of difference between Diksha and Siksha Guru, everything is spoiled as far as what Siksha Guru is saying. If it's different from what Diksha Guru is saying, it is spoiled. Different! Naturally, a devotee will be confused. Especially, it happens a lot in our society. A lot. Where I have sufficient experience. Well, I'll talk to somebody, a confused neophyte, who's talked to at least 6 different devotees with 6 different opinions, and of course they're royally confused.
तो ऐसा खासतौर पे हमारी सोसाइटी में बहुत होता है, हमारी सोसाइटी में बहुत होता है कि मान लीजिए ऐसे बहुत व्यक्तियों से मिला हूँ कि एक व्यक्ति 6 लोगों से आदेश प्राप्त कर रहे, 6 लोगों से इंस्ट्रक्शन ले रहे, और उसके बाद वो कंफ्यूज हो जाता है कि क्या करना चाहिए।
For this reason, must be very, very careful from whom they take Diksha. They have to be authorized. The first point is they have to be authorized by the Diksha Guru, or authorized by temple authorities who are representing the Diksha Guru. This is the key. You take, you're talking at the Sunday feast with a guest and you want to get some advice from a guest. Good luck. Sakama. This means that if Vashishta was after money, we see later on also Vashishta fell down. He fell down. He was underwater. He was doing his meditations. And then he became distracted by seeing some fish engaged in sex. Same Vashishta, is it not? No, I got the name wrong. Well, that was the other mystic sage. What happens, the point is we see it happens. In other words, Vashishta was not a pure devotee. That's the point. This proves it. Otherwise, if Vashishta was or is, he's probably still alive, a pure devotee of the Lord, then his disciple wouldn't even think of cursing him, you see? He's Sakama devotee. Just like in the pastime of Daksha, when he offended Lord Shiva, and when his daughter Sati performed the Sati rite by her mystic power, she burned her body in flames, self-ignited flames. In that pastime, there's a hardcore lesson there. Then after that, Lord Shiva became extremely angry. He pulled out a hair and caused that demon to come out of the fire that seized Daksha, put him on the sharp blade and cut his head off. That was his sinful reaction for Mahabhagavats. Point is that Daksha was surrounded by Brahmanas. They were devotees of Lord Vishnu, all of them. Sakama. Sakama means full of material desire, but devotee, just like generally in our society, we know there are many, average devotee has many material desires, but they're devotee. You can't say they're not devotee just because they have material desires. They want money, they want sex, they want a nice car, all these things, but they're devotee. Sakama. So Daksha was a devotee, but he was punished because he made aparad, Mahabhagavats. But the point is that there were brahmanas, some very highly placed brahmanas were around and were servants in the court of Daksha. And they had to suffer, they sided with Daksha instead of Lord Shiva. Same principle. Why did they side with Daksha instead of knowing that Lord Shiva is such a great Mahajan? They did not know. This is avidya, but they were big, big Brahmins. So how come they side with a materialistic king like Daksha, although he's devotee, instead of siding with Lord Shiva, who is, you know, not ordinary devotee at all, but his Mahajan, one of the 12 greatest authorities on the science of Krishna consciousness in the universe. The answer is they were on Daksha's payroll. They were big, big brahmanas, but they were on Daksha's payrolls, more or less. Of course, not technically salary, but brahmanas don't work for free, generally, in Vedic culture even. They're given, we hear the descriptions, you know, thousands of cows, gems, gold, even women, are so much remuneration is given to brahmanas, so they don't work for free. I mean, they can, but generally, kings especially, give generously. So they were on Daksha's payroll. They became compromised, just as Vasishtha became compromised, you see? So we have to stop there. Jagaguru Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Granchara Shima Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gopa Vinandi. Hari Hari Bolo.